Now, please welcome Global Senior Vice President and General Manager of Lodging Marketplace at Expedia Group, Nair.
Hi, everybody. Hey, folks. Thank you, Hari, for doing this. I've always wondered what it is like to sit on these yellow chairs, and I'm so happy. And there is enough room for a good Bollywood duo if the audience is ready for it, right?
You go ahead. I'll exit the stage.
You have a reputation to protect. I probably don't.
I have a reputation to not dance. My team will tell you. These chairs are not built for comfort. They're only built for effect.
They're okay, actually.
But that's what it is. Well, thank you for doing this.
You
and I have known each other for a bit, but I've never officially interviewed you on stage, and so we're going to do that. So you have been at Expedia. This is your 20th year.
Yes.
What keeps somebody at Expedia for 20 years?
Yes, I just completed 20 years last year in June. You want to hear a story?
Yeah,
true story. When I had worked for several years in India when I came here to go to grad school, and it was I came here in the year 2000, and it was a really tough year to graduate because it was 2002. It was right after September 11th, and the world collapsed. And here I was as an international student. I just needed a job with a company who was going to do a visa, period, for an international student. If I paid my fees in dollars, I need to earn in dollars so that I can pay back my loans back in India. And when the resumes went to Expedia, they were looking for account managers. My resume came back in the not interested pile. So when campus day,
they were not interested.
They were not interested in my resume. So it came back as interested candidates, not interested. So I was in the not interested pile. And when campus interview happened, I didn't go to the Expedia booth because they had already declared they're not interested in seeing me. And there was one undergraduate student who didn't show up, and I was first on standby. And they gave me a call. So it was a good learning lesson for me, even life lesson, as I have interviewed and hired a lot of people, in the sense that sometimes, unless you have a role that is very specific and technical, sometimes you look for, if you're in generalist roles, you look for true matches, and there is no such thing. And I'm an example out here, so sometimes it's a life lesson for me saying, I get trapped into, I'm looking for a person with a certain package, and there are all kinds of individuals out there who can have great value. But yes, I think with Expedia, what has kept me, I had 3 requirements for me to work for an organization. One, which I believe truly can influence the category or the industry you're a part of. So I think Expedia fits that for me. The second one is somebody who is willing to take a chance on me. And I think in my last 20 years,
when you joined, had it already spun out of Microsoft?
It was. So, I've seen this organization go from a startup. I'm employee 2027, our employee ID. So that's my employee number. So I've seen this company grow from a startup to what it is kind of today, go through a lot of transformations, but be a part of a company who's willing to take a chance on you. And as a result of that, have moved different locations, run the media side of the business for Expedia and the online brand, the B2B side, B2C side. And I think finally the third one, it's a little more personal for me. It's value driven, and that is, look, you cut me open and I'm an Indian at heart. I worked in India for many years. But what I've also seen firsthand and secondhand is sometimes corruption is rampant. And I think being a part of a company that is clean in the way it goes about doing things was important to me, and so I checked those 3 boxes.
Very interesting. And so currently your role is, explain to people who don't know what your current role is.
Yes. I am responsible for the lodging supply, the B2B side of Expedia Group. And by that I mean all hotel relationships, all vacation rental relationships under Vrbo. That falls under my remit. So my team and I are the ones that many of you may be dealing with on a daily basis on an account management level. We are widely distributed globally in the market, and we are the ones who account manage, acquire hotels on our platform or VRs on our platform as needed, and the day-to-day optimization and account management.
And this is across Expedia brands?
This is across all Expedia brands, Expedia Group, Vrbo, all of our brands.
I saw Hotels.com has these giant billboards in Times Square.
Yes.
Which is probably the only place. This was yesterday. I was walking past Times Square, which, by the way, as you know, no New Yorker really ever walks past.
I stay away from Times Square. So you've probably seen it more than I have.
Yesterday, for some reason, I was there. I forget what it was. But I saw these giant Hotels.com billboards. I want to start with a big picture question. I said upfront that the pent-up demand phase is over.
Yes.
And obviously you are sitting on top of a lot of data. What's your sense of is the pent-up demand part of the business of the travel recovery? Can we still call it recovery?
It is not recovery. I think it's not over. So I may have a very different take to this based on what we see on our platforms. You know,
Well, Expedia has not recovered from an earnings perspective, but anyway, go ahead.
Yes, just from a general demand standpoint, I think what we are seeing is there are more people who are willing to travel. I mean, we do this not because that's what we feel. We do a lot of research. Most recently in Q4, we reached out to almost 27 to 30,000 people across 17 countries saying, hey, tell us what's on your mind, right? So this is based on that. And what we see is there are more people who are willing to travel, almost by a third, as opposed to the recession, and they are willing to spend a lot more money, meaning they're setting aside money. Nothing new to us. There's no ahas out here. You know, if you think about the recession, we moved from a stage of being alone to suddenly wanting to go and meet people. We were, you know, from indoors, we wanted to go and explore the outdoors and cross off a lot of destinations on our bucket list. All of that stays. But I think there are some really interesting quirky trends that we are seeing and which we are thinking of as the no normal. We used to call it the new normal. There is nothing normal about these trends, and I'll share a few.
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
One is, you know, it was fascinating for me. We were just talking back in the green room, and I escaped for a couple of days to Nashville over the holidays. 3 or 4 days, amazing. It's like an Austin 2.0. Pubs are full, live music. People are just wanting to get there. This notion of cultural capitals is emerging, and urban vibes is coming back up again. So on our platform, if you think about some of the destinations like Montreal and Edinburgh and Bangkok, there are some of these, Lisbon in Portugal, these are coming up. So cultural, I think attachments is a real thing. The second one is travel inspired by TV and streaming services is real. If you think about a couple of years ago, I mean, you think about Lord of the Rings, and suddenly people thinking about, oh my goodness, New Zealand, that's the place I need to be.
We were writing early stories on how that was
You
emerging.
think about Game of Thrones and Ireland and Croatia, Emily in Paris, for some of you who may have seen that, or Downton Abbey, right? Wanting to go and see these amazing real estate mansions and the countrysides of UK. These are all real things. In fact, what was really interesting...
So the inspiration has moved to non-traditional things.
Non-traditional. In fact, the traditional, you know, advice from family and friends is only 2% higher in terms of the influence it has over TV. That's how much it can influence your travel. The third element that we see is wellness. And we see this rising in certain destinations on the world. We talk about wellness in terms of, hey, I want to have sporting activities and meditation sessions, all good. But today, what we're seeing is the quirkier the wellness, the better. I did not know about this, to be honest with you, but I learned about something called sylviotherapy.
What therapy?
Sylviotherapy. This is therapy getting energy by immersing yourself amongst trees in a forest.
Well, that's the forest bathing
Forest
thing.
bathing
And
is
my
a real
first time I
thing.
heard it, like you actually go and like take a shower in the forest, and turns out that's not what it is.
Well, I mean,
No, I mean, if you've not heard of it, that's what you assume. You go in a forest and take a shower.
That's exactly what I thought too.
Yeah.
But it's a thing, right? Chakra sessions. I mean, we speak about this with a little more authority from India because that's where it originated.
Came from, yeah.
But wellness is puppy yoga. Now that's something I would sign up for, right? I mean, have puppies. But these are all quirky. But this is what the travelers are looking for, something that is very different. Frugal travel, I think people are not willing to spend all their dollars in one shot. They're willing to take smaller steps. My son is a great example. He was not afraid to stay in a 2.5, 3-star hotel, but if that hotel had a stunning view of the Eiffel Tower, he's going to sign up for it. And I think fourth, and I end with this finally, inclusive travel is becoming important. The ability for somebody to identify yourself as a traveler in a marketing campaign. I read about an interesting campaign run by Panama. It's called The Next Turn. And it was about traveling through Panama rainforests and looking at the volcanoes and coffee plantations through the eyes, well, proverbial eyes of a blind person. So it is all about the sense, smell, touch, sights, and sounds, and so on. Yeah. So these are all becoming real. I wouldn't call them mega trends, but if these are services that an establishment provides, let it be known to the world and talk about it.
Yeah,
because
it's funny,
that's what
like
people are
how
looking
the
for.
basic 101 a lot of destinations forget, which is let it be known.
Let it be known.
Yeah, a lot of that. One of the things, and this is true for us as a company, we're seeing all the layoffs happening in tech, 15,000 here, 17,000 here, 10,000 there. Meanwhile, travel in general, even though it's not fully recovered in, particularly business travel, isn't, and Asia is just coming online, China is just starting. The push and pull that we're trying to figure out, I have 15, 20 hires for the year. Should I go ahead and hire all these people, or should I pull back and be cautious? But we're not seeing any slowness in our business today. We're going to see slowness if travel sees slowness, because our business comes from the travel industry. But as you're thinking about hiring for your teams, as well as Expedia overall, how are you calibrating in your head in terms of, for instance, hiring?
Look, I think I would say we have not seen a slowdown. And I think Seth talked about the various different travel patterns we're seeing. I'll just go back to, we saw a very similar trend on our platform, and I'll come back to the hiring question. But we saw a very similar trend that happened right after the recession in 2008. I can lean on this because of 20 years with Expedia, so I can go back 20 years and look at some of the numbers.
Advantage.
But people didn't stop traveling. They just traveled differently. They said, I want to travel. I can no longer afford going all the way to Hawaii. But hey, California affords the sun and the sand and the beach. And I don't need to jump on a plane. How about California, right? I thought I would splurge on a 5-star luxury retreat for myself. I can no longer afford that. I can no longer afford a 7-night length of stay, but I will do with a 5-night. So I think people travel, they just traveled differently. So in our world, it is being sensible about hiring. If there are some areas that are key focus areas for your company, this is where you're putting your energy and effort, we would say, don't let up. Go and hire the people that you need in those elements, but at the same time, be cautious about not over-hiring some areas that you don't want to, and you definitely need to go through your, with a fine-tooth comb.
Is this travel industry, because travel industry has always sort of struggled, and I don't know if that's too strong a word, on getting tech talent compared to the big tech companies, for instance. And since now there's a downturn clearly in the tech world, yes. Is this an opportunity for Expedia to be able to hoover up more tech talent?
Indeed. I mean,
Seattle, which is your background.
Correct. Seattle, we have a big hub in San Francisco. Yes, it's been tough in the tech world in the last couple of weeks. There's been a lot of news, but it's also an opportunity saying, hey, there are roles available in other organizations. It's a great opportunity for the individuals to use their networking to reach out, but also for companies like ours to proactively go and see what is the talent out there and whether there's a match in a skill set. So we definitely look at this as an opportunity.
Coming to sort of your portfolio on the hotel side, and I'm going to talk from a consumer point of view, which is, the rates have the highest they've ever been in the hotels, at least anecdotally, that's what it feels like to travelers. Are we going to see any let up in 2023 based on sort of what you're looking across in your platform in terms of pricing power?
Well, I think, look, I mean, there are a few things that we're going to see. From a hotel standpoint, having spoken to so many players, there are a few things that is a reality. Operating a hotel is becoming a lot more expensive today than it used to be 3 or 4 years ago. Correct. Supply chain, labor, and so on. I was speaking with a GM of a hotel in Germany when I was traveling, and she had to change the hotel to a 4-day work week, get paid for 7 days, but you're going to pay 4 days. Wow. You're going to show up for 4 days because that's the only way she could get talent in the labor shortage world, if you will, right? There is also, so that's one dimension. And then there is a travel and no let up on the travel side, which is resulting in, people are willing to give up on occupancy points to keep the rate and the ADR, and that's probably what we're going to see for the foreseeable future. I just don't know for how long. So I don't see the rates being let up. From a consumer standpoint, what we are seeing from a consumer feedback standpoint is, okay, we were very patient during the pandemic where you pulled back some of the services.
This is based on the reviews on the Expedia platform.
All of that, right? You pull back on some of the services. Okay, it's been 2 years. Life is kind of coming back to normal. We are not walking around with masks anymore. It's about time, if you're raising the prices, bring back the service levels where it used to be. You can't have it both ways, and we hear that very often from our
Yeah, we did a story
travelers.
yesterday. Dennis did a story yesterday that Sonder, which used to charge for
Cleaning fees,
cleaning fees, just did away with their cleaning fees, which is, I guess, a sign of things to come. Which is, I guess I don't know if the daily cleaning will come back, because a lot of hotels, as you know, have at least the lower to mid scale have
The
taken it
housekeeping,
away.
you mean, yeah.
Sorry, yeah, housekeeping, but some of these things that changed during the pandemic are probably coming back to normal.
I mean, there is an expectation from the travelers for sure. Like, we have been on your side. We understand that the industry has gone through a turmoil, but it's about time to bring back the services or adjust the pricing. You can't have it both ways, and that's something that we hear very often.
Yeah, I mean, New York continues to be absolutely nuts in terms of pricing.
It's crazy. I'm glad I'm a resident here and I don't
True,
pay the hotel rates.
True, very much so. So let's talk about, since you also look after the Vrbo product as well, as well as inventory there. The short-term rentals obviously went through a giant boom during the pandemic. Airbnb, Vrbo was really just a breakout star for Expedia during the pandemic. Again, talking about pent-up demand versus the normality. What does normality for Vrbo today look like?
I think the runway for us on Vrbo is long. And the reason we say that is for a couple of things. One is that it is no longer a question of hotel or VR. The world that we're living in today is a hotel and vacation rental, right? I mean, consumers have gotten used to, this is an amazing category that we thought was playing catch up with the hotel industry a few years ago. And now it is right there, right? It's a big boy kind of on the table. Specifically from a Vrbo standpoint, we've been a very US-centric indexed business.
Right.
The runway for us to expand internationally and expand our footprint.
Non-city primarily.
I mean, non-city primarily, that's right. More so, suburban destinations, full houses, private homes. And we see what is interesting though, again, on the Vrbo side, so there is international expansion and footprint. But what we do see from people today in terms of what their expectations are from a VR in terms of amenities has changed pretty dramatically. So I'll give you a few nuggets, if you will. The most searched amenity for us on the Vrbo side 2 years ago, 25% of our searches for Vrbo amenity, people wanted a waffle maker.
Interesting.
Family travel, you're traveling with kids, breakfast.
But how were they telling you that?
What is that?
How were they telling you they want to?
Either through the conversation platform, like, hey, or through our own research as we speak to the VR owners. That's why travelers, that's what we learn. Today, we've always said, right, for humanity.
This is, the whole thing about like people making bread in their homes during the pandemic. I guess this is the equivalent to the VR world.
Similar, right? And we say that kitchen is the center of the universe in a home, and it's no different in a vacation rental. So people are now looking for amenities that are full-blown kitchens. You want to have a barbecue, and you want to have an air fryer. You want to have the world-class coffee machine. I mean, these are the ways in which the VR business and amenities, so we call it food amenities is what we call it, right? And I think the other searches that have exploded on our platform is for, we call it cowboy vacations. And this is the searching for ranches and lodges, right? These stunning views and vistas of wineries, but in this ranch setting. I mean, we are seeing some changes, some quirky changes again on the VR side, but the runway for us, to answer your question, is long on Vrbo.
And so are you beginning to, in terms of the product presentation on Expedia, I'm trying to remember what it is on Expedia.com. Is it when people are searching, do they show both hotels and vacation?
We do. We do show both. There is a lot of work that we need to do that to make it seamless for a traveler. It can be a little confusing. It is a little bit of I wouldn't call it patchwork, but we are learning as we're going.
Right.
We are going to be moving towards a single traveler-facing platform for both VR. Today, they operate on 2 distinct platforms. It's not the most efficient.
Yeah, I mean, this is what Peter Kern has been doing since he came in, is to integrate a lot of the back end.
A big leap for us, both on the supplier and on the traveler-facing side, which is lined up for 2023, which is going to be great, and we'll be able to leverage all of our loyalty programs that we have.
Yeah, talk about the loyalty, because when I interviewed Peter on stage at our Global Forum last year, he was talking, the One Key is launching this year. So that you build it up a lot.
Yes.
So better deliver.
Yes.
This is the single loyalty program across all the Expedia brands that you've been talking in earnings calls for many quarters now, in interviews, etc. So tell as much as you can.
Yes, and we will. I've been recorded, it's even live. So for those of you, our loyalty programs and Expedia Group across a house of brands is very deleveraged, right? Every brand has got its own version, its own currency of a loyalty program. In fact, some of our sites don't have a loyalty program. Right. Vrbo is an example, hotels.com has hotel rewards. Do consumers
expect loyalty programs out of OTAs in general, historically? I mean, hotels.com had one for years.
Expedia had one.
Expedia had one, but hotels.com was more known among consumers, had some loyalty towards it, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know about consumer expectation, but for repeat customer, it's a great degree of kind of convert stickiness, right? And bring in some loyalty. So we are trying to create a singular currency amongst all of our brands. And if you look at it from a consumer standpoint, the ability to earn on hotels.com and burn on Expedia, the ability to earn a hotel and burn it on air, the ability to do this combination, we don't think there is any other player out there who is in today's world, who's got the ability to do that. And the ability to save on today's trip and earn points for the future, I think it's a great value proposition to the consumer. On the supplier side, we are about 155 million unique users, loyalty members. If our loyalty program was a country today, it would be the 9th largest country on this planet. It would sit behind Bangladesh and above Russia. That's what the size of a loyalty program would be. So it's a great value proposition to be able to go to partners who want to have access to these travelers because they are high value, repeat, kind of and so on and so forth. And I think we have a great value proposition for both ends, creating an amazing virtuous cycle. That's how we see it.
So when is it launching?
You should expect it somewhere in the summerish of this year, but more to come.
Okay. I should mention that we do have questions. We will take some questions. If you have, you can go and ask the questions, and I'll be able to ask Hari. I think this is where you will. With China opening up, and you don't have much business inside China.
Inside China, no.
What type of business do you see from China, if you do?
We see, so we have affiliate partnerships. So we do get an action of the outbound traffic from China. I think our focus in Asia is on different countries. It's not on China as of now.
Okay. So talk about markets that you're excited about. You obviously travel quite a lot. You were in Singapore, I think a few months ago. And so what new, I mentioned, the reason I'm excited about 2023 and beyond is the global traveler flows are changing. And we both come from India. We were talking earlier about how India is going to become the most populous nation in the world this year. Sometime in April, that's the estimate, and we're going to talk about it later as well on why that's important. What parts of the world are you excited about?
We are, so of course, we are super excited about here. This is our home. If you think about Asia, if you will, from an India standpoint, our focus on India is building on supply. And that is because we see one of our strengths is about bringing international travelers outside of the US and North America and some of the markets in Europe and have them go in other parts of the world for which you need supply in India.
Right.
But in terms of areas where I am most upbeat about is the Americas. Of course, the giants in Europe, right? The UK and France and Germany, that's an interesting area for us. Australia, South Korea, and Japan. These are the areas, is our heat map, if I would call it, on the Expedia side. So both on the Vrbo side and on the hotel side of the business, it goes both ways.
Yeah. I asked this question to Peter last year, and he gave a detailed answer, and I want your maybe update on it.
Sure.
Expedia has said that they want to move away from performance marketing, or at least the sort of the lowest common denominator of performance marketing, the money that it spends on Google and other platforms, and wants to focus on I don't know what the right term is, but higher value travelers, that doesn't just mean like more rich people, but it means people that would come directly to your brands.
Yep.
And so how are you thinking about performance marketing as you're talking to your hotel partners now?
Yeah. So I think performance marketing for us is, so as Expedia has gone through a transformation, we moved away from what used to be a very siloed kind of approach. Hotels.com had its own performance marketing team, and Expedia had its own marketing team, and so on and so forth, to a more unified house of brands, a singular team that looks across all of our brands and all of our patterns. I mean, that's the structure that we move towards across many functions in Expedia, not just marketing, even product and technology.
Right.
So that's one. Our focus on performance marketing here, Rafat, is about bringing in that direct customer. If there's an opportunity for us to bring that high-value customer, bring them and download an app and interact with us using our interfaces, if you will, that's what we would prefer. For us, our view on performance marketing is you're marketing to a consumer, but you have to build a great product that goes along with your marketing message and what you're trying to create an experience, right? So our focus has been on both the sides, if you will. Great product experiences supported with great marketing where people can come and create the stickiness. We talked about the one key. That's really key for us, and we build that value. And that's the cycle that we see.
Okay. Let's take a few questions. Does Hari have insights on business travel? Can it recover? How is it impacting his biz? I guess it's 85% or so is what, that's a broad number in terms of what business travel is recovered, at least in the US. And people are saying this is the new normal, get used to it.
This is the new normal. I think with business travel, we continue to see an uptick. I think business travel coming down to zero that's never going to happen. You're always going to have a business travel. It's just going to take time. There was a first question out there. I think it was on, we're looking at bottom up or top down?
Yeah, I'll ask the questions.
Sorry. Good, thank you.
But I get this. Okay. Do you worry about potentially alienating the major hotel brands, Marriott, Hilton, et cetera, with your loyalty program as they build further scale?
The way our view out here is, hey, we are not competing with any one particular program. I think if there are partners who would like to participate and get access to those consumers that are on our site, that is great. I think we are thinking about a more holistic kind of a program where it's not always based on just price. If there are other elements we can add for our program that may comprise of points, or it could be perks or something else, then that's a construct that I think there will be partners who will be willing to talk to us about it, as opposed to give me a lower price for our members. That might not stick in the long term.
I actually like this question, the fintech question.
Yes.
And I know you guys I talked to Peter on stage about this as well, on sort of fintech products or buy now, pay later. I'm guessing you offer options on Expedia's brands for buy now, pay later.
We've had that for a while, yes.
What's your adoption-wise, how's it doing?
Well, there are many partners on a global basis because we've had this for a while. We've had this for over 7 or 8 years now, right? So there's a lot of partners. And I think this is an important one because consumers in different parts of the world, they do e-commerce differently.
Right.
Right?
Asia,
in Asia, it's different. In Brazil, not only do you need to offer payment methods, but you need to create installments. That's the way Brazilians do e-commerce. So anybody who creates this capability you're going to win because you're going to speak to all kinds of consumers on a global basis.
Okay. Did you mean the Vrbo site will merge with oh my God, did you just create news? Did you mean the Vrbo site will merge with Expedia site or remain independent?
No. The Vrbo site will remain independent on its own.
Okay.
The Vrbo brand is not going anywhere.
Vrbo's not going away. That was not what he said.
No, it's more so, think of it as a tech stack and not the consumer-facing website.
Okay. All right. I think we're out of time. Thank you, Hari.
Excellent. It was great to be here.
Okay. All right.
Thank you so much.